Okay, good morning. It's great to see everyone and happy to have you here. Um, Welcome to our coffee meeting for November. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We're placing everyone on mute for the recording. This way, everyone can get an opportunity to see the recording at some point. In the chat box, as I said earlier, please enter your name, company, and who you are and where you're located so we all can get to know you. We're going to ask that we use the chat box today since it's a large group. If you have any questions during the presentation, myself, Tracy, and other board members will be monitoring the chat room. So we'll be happy to make sure your questions get fielded. Okay. And that's it. I'm going to turn it back over to Tracy to get us rolling.
Excellent. Thank you, Paula. And as always, thank you for coordinating these coffee meetings or virtual meetings, if you will. I know it takes a lot of work in the background to coordinate everything and put the invites out there. So we appreciate you and thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us today. As always, we hope that today's presentation will provide you with useful information and tips which are useful to your business as you prepare for a successful 2024 marketing strategy. It's that time of year already. It's hard to believe, but we're starting to do our plans for 2024, and this will be the start of it. So as most of you know, the NLA has recently held its annual election of directors for its different regions and its at-large region. For those of you on the call that took the 30 seconds to vote, on behalf of our association as well as our industry, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time and voting for your directors. I also want to personally thank those that supported me in securing the director's position representing the Central region. So thank you. And as a member of either your national association or your local association, I just want to stress how incredibly important it is to take advantage of your rights as a member and annually vote for your directors that represent you. If you want to take it one step further, inquire about being involved on committees. So on the National Limousine Association, there's about 15 different committees. Find a committee that is important to you, one that you can be very interested in, and just ask to be part of that committee. There's co-chairs of every committee, and they would definitely welcome your participation. And most of the committees for NLA as well as for ILLBA, a majority of the committees usually meet once a month. That would only be an investment of 1 to 2 hours per month of your time. So I highly encourage to be involved where you can. It's even as simple as sending in suggestions for our next speaker or our next topic, sending in questions about challenges you are currently dealing with, because odds are other operators are dealing with the same challenges, and it just provides us an opportunity to discuss those challenges and hear different ideas from different operators versus trying to figure it out yourself. So your board of directors are constantly seeking your feedback, and we want to provide value to you as a member and a fellow operator. So a bit of history of the coffee meetings. I do see a lot of new faces on this call this morning. So just a little bit of history regarding how these virtual meetings have started. We started in early 2021 during COVID, and it was a way to stay connected with our members, as well as providing a forum for updates, news, as well as education. As always, these meetings are open to everyone, whether you are an ILLBA member or not. Our vendors are always seeking ways to be more involved. The board has agreed to continue these virtual meetings in addition to our in-person meetings. So if you are a vendor and you're interested in sponsoring our next coffee virtual meeting, please contact myself or contact Paula for more information. So we will continue these throughout 2024 as well. I want to take this opportunity to thank ILLBA member Maren Graham, owner of MJGraham Visual Solutions, for leading our discussion today. During the presentation, you may post your questions in the chat box, as Paula had mentioned, and we'll be monitoring that, as well as I'm sure there'll be a Q&A after the presentation that we can have open discussion. After we hear from Maren, the board will facilitate a brief roundtable chat about what's next for ILLBA and its membership. This is an opportunity for you to share with us what types of information and education sessions are of interest to you, and we encourage everyone's participation, whether you are a member or not. So before we hear from our speaker, from Maren, I would like to introduce our board of directors. in alphabetical order. And the directors, if you are on, if you could just put your video on and wave so they can see who you are. Alphabetical order, we have Kaya Armagan of Flash Limousine and Buses. Kaya also serves as our treasurer. We have Bill Battisti of Nationwide Bus Sales. We have Beth Cox of Cox Livery Service. We have Paula DiBiase of Chicago Coach Works, who also serves as our secretary and executive director. James Jordan of Lux Tux Transportation. Lynn Kafkes of Galaxy Limousine. Michael McDaniels of Shriver Transportation Insurance. Art Rento of Pontarelli Companies. Art also serves as our vice president. And we have Brian Sheely of Epic Limo. So thank you to all of our directors and all of the hard work they do behind the scenes. And I will turn it over to Paula to introduce Maren.
Paula, I'm going to pull up the screen real fast.
Okay, great.
There for you.
All right. So as Tracy said earlier, Maren is an ILLBA member and has been a strong supporter of our industry for many years. She is a certified marketing consultant, website designer, and search engine optimization specialist, bringing over 2 decades of applied marketing strategy, design, and content writing to her work with her clients. Her area of focus is centered around the customer journey and how to sell the brand and tell that brand story in a meaningful way that connects and engages across the digital spectrum. And she has worked with over 100 different transportation operators worldwide in various projects to help them get that creative and competitive advantage. She also leads marketing and creative initiatives for business within the legal, hospitality, and service sectors. And as always, we appreciate Maren's time, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Thank you very much for that introduction.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everybody. It's great that you're all here with me today. Pop over to here. As Paula just shared, my name's Maren Graham, and I've been working with transportation operators for over 20 years now. I've seen a lot of change in those years, not just within this industry, but within marketing and technology as a whole. And I can honestly say this is the first year that I have seen massive amounts of transformation from AI. I truly believe we are on the cusp of a great leap forward. And so today's discussion is largely going to be centered around how you can prepare your organization to take that leap. We're going to be talking about trends in 2024 that you can expect to hear a lot more about. I think it's largely going to be a continuation of what we saw in 2023, but on a much grander scale. First and foremost, the emphasis that you're going to hear a lot about is data. How you collect data, what kinds of data you collect, where you store that data, how you secure that data, and how you utilize that data. Because data is going to be the determining factor for whether or not your operation is going to become AI ready and whether or not you're going to be able to take that leap. We're going to talk about the ways in which you can use the AI in your business today and some of the marketing tools that exist that you're probably already working with and may have an opportunity to kind of explore other tools that you can leverage as well. And then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. Before we get started, or as you're sitting there, I want you to think about how well you know your customers. And I mean really know them beyond the basics like age or location or gender. How well do you know their buying behaviors? Do you know their income levels, their interests, their likes, their dislikes, their pain points they have? Do you know how they actually perceive your brand, how they feel about your brand, not just from one review site, but holistically over the course of the relationship with you? And now I want you to think about how well you know your target customer. So let's suppose you want to get into a whole new segment. Maybe you do airport runs and you want to get into charter work, or you're exploring corporate accounts and corporate work. How well do you know that audience? Would you know them well enough that you could send your sales, your marketing team out and create a campaign that's going to resonate well enough with them that you're going to gain new customers and more market share? Regardless of whether or not you have an answer to those questions, you can't answer those questions without data. You can't. If you do know the answer to those questions, it's only because it's rooted in data that you've acquired. You can acquire data from a variety of different sources, from your website, social media, your call center, support logs, feedback forms, emails, direct communication, forums, reviews, surveys, advertising. Data comes from all different sources. The more data you have, the more accurate that picture is going to be of your customer. You want to collect as much data as you can. But you can't talk about data collection without also talking about the importance of data security. 30,000 websites are hacked every single day. 43% of all cyber attacks target small businesses just like yours. You are not immune to this threat. If anything, AI is actually amplifying that. The same tools and technologies that we're using to generate content at unprecedented speeds, hackers are using those same tools to hack into websites or to launch cyber attacks. You cannot be complacent in your data security. Every single operator on this call should have a disaster recovery plan in place. If you do not have one, that's your first action item for today when you get off the call, is to start writing one, to start developing a disaster recovery plan. Do you have a firewall on your website? Do you have backups of your data? And I'm not just talking about your backups of your website. I'm talking about backups of all of your data in the event of a data breach. Do you know how to access those backups? Do you have that data or that backup stored in the same location as your primary data? Because if you do, you're at risk. Your backup data should not be stored in the same location as your primary data. For those of you who experienced a 3.5-week outage about 3.5 years ago, you know that this could have been business ending. You must have a backup in a separate location. Related to my comment just a minute ago, reservation systems. If you're using a third-party reservation system, whether that's Limo Anywhere, Fast Tracks, Santa Cruz, Hudson, doesn't really matter. If you're using a third-party reservation system, you need to understand what data protections they have in place and what their disaster recovery looks like in front of a breach. Because again, if they go down, you go down with them. And you need to make sure you have a plan in place. What's your communication strategy? How are you going to reach out to your customers? How are you going to reach out to your employees? Who's reaching out to your employees? Who's reaching out to your customers? You need to have those plans in place. And finally, if you don't have cyber liability insurance or you don't have coverage for that, you need to get some. And this is not something that you can ignore. This is not something that you are immune from. This is real. And companies today, people today, are very concerned about their privacy and security. In a recent survey, 87% of people said they would not do business with a company that didn't take data security seriously. 73% are more concerned about privacy data than they've ever been in recent years. It is changing the way in which people are using and browsing online and using websites. I, for one, do this all the time. I clear my cookies and browser history for added protection. I switch to privacy browsing half the time whenever I'm doing something. You cannot ignore data security and data privacy. You cannot be complacent in it. You have to take this seriously. I'm sure everyone on this call has experienced one of these scenarios on the left where you have felt like perhaps your phone is listening to you, had a conversation with something and an ad showed up on Facebook, or perhaps you were just casually browsing something and now your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed is filled with ads related to that product. That's a violation of people's privacy. They don't feel like that's something they want you to know too much about. Google gets it. Google gets it so much that they retired their Universal Analytics product this past year in favor of one called GA4. It's an events-driven model, but most importantly, it's a model that's focusing on first-party data or data given to a user or a company with consent. That's the key. It's all focused on first-party data, data given to a company with consent. It looks at more engagement. It looks at it's added in significant amounts of different privacy protections, but they've even changed their model. They understand that data privacy is a huge concern for users today. On a side note, if you haven't already accessed your Universal Analytics data and exported it, you need to do that because July 24th, they're wiping it clean. You will not have access to any of that data anymore. So you want to make sure that you go in and grab that data while it still exists. Some tips on data privacy. First and foremost, add a cookie consent tool to your website. My favorite two options that I use are Cookie Yes and Osano. It doesn't matter if you're on Wix, WordPress, you've got straight HTML, custom proprietary system. These are just a couple little lines of code that you can add into your website But Cookie Yes and Asano, the reason why I like those tools is they offer a dashboard. So if you were to receive an inquiry from the EU or somewhere within the EU or one of the states that has really tight privacy regulations, or an individual approached you and said, I need proof that you're abiding by data privacy laws, you can run reports from this dashboard and it will give you concrete proof that you're abiding by laws. So I highly, highly encourage you to consider one of those tools. I also recommend that you have a privacy policy on your website if you don't have one. That privacy policy should share what types of data you're collecting, how you're using it, and how you're storing it. And finally, focus on gathering that zero first-party data or data that's given to you with consent. You want to collect data responsibly. A couple of things that you should absolutely not do. You should never email or text your users unless they've given you consent. And I'm going to add one step to this. Just because they've purchased a service from you and they give you your phone number or email address and you need to communicate with them about that service does not mean they've given you consent to email them randomly 6 months from now or 3 months from now on any other topic. They have to opt into those communications. If you don't get that consent from them, you're kind of in violation of their data privacy. You need to make sure you're getting consent back from them. And then you always want to give them a reason or not a reason, but an option to opt out. So stop or opt out links where they can easily say, no, I don't want to get this communication from you. All of you are affiliates. Most likely you are working with other affiliates. You may farm work out, or you may fulfill work that's given to you. In either scenario, you want to have an agreement in place with whichever affiliate you're working with that says, you're not going to share or use my customers' data without their consent or without sharing what you're going to do with it without talking to me first, and vice versa. That's second-party data. So you want to make sure that you are working with all of your affiliates. You have agreements in place that just says, hey, listen, we all agree we're only using that data to fulfill service. We're not using that data for any other reasons. And third-party sources, that's just kind of somebody shopping online, browsing online, and they're using cookies. You don't want to focus on third-party sources of data. You want to focus on gathering as much data as you can through zero-party or first-party data. And that data is from purchasing history, people filling out feedback forms, signing up for newsletters, joining loyalty programs you might launch, looking at support logs if they've called into your call center, review sites, social engagement, surveys. That's data that's given to you with the user's consent. And that's what you want to collect. The more data you accumulate, the more you can create these targeted campaigns that are going to resonate with your customer base. Once you have that data, then you need to make it work for you. So data is going to be a hot topic that you're going to hear more and more about in the coming months. And technology is going to be able to help you use that data in a way that's going to help your marketing and sales efforts. I would recommend everyone on this call invest in a CDP, or what's called a customer data platform. Customer data platforms collect and unify all of that data, whether that's from Facebook, your websites, your email marketing programs. It doesn't really matter. It consolidates all of that data and unifies it into a single location. Having the CDP is what's going to allow you to create these hyper-personalized, hyper-targeted mailing campaigns or advertising campaigns that you're going to be hearing a lot more about in a few minutes. Segment, Klaviyo, and High Touch are all 3 CDPs that cater to small to mid-sized businesses. They're very affordably priced. The bottom 2, Market My Limo and add-ons, they're not true CDPs, but they mimic and reflect a lot of the different attributes that CDPs have. They offer detailed insight, advanced audience segmentation, workflows, data analytics, automation. So any one of these tools, I would highly recommend. But a CDP is going to allow you to move to a level where you're going to be able to do hyper-personalization at scale. That's one of the big trends you're going to see in 2024. We've seen it in 2023. It's been slowly becoming more and more popular in recent years, but you're really going to see this take off, especially with AI, in the coming years. People expect that the communications they receive, whether that's from their email marketing or ads that they might see online, they're expecting to see it personalized to them. They're not expecting to get these blanket emails from people saying get 10% off this or that, or happy holidays from us. They're expecting it to be personalized to them, to address their needs, their expectations. Almost 50% of consumers in the Salesforce survey indicated they would actually question their loyalty to a brand and express frustration when they got these irrelevant offers or messages that did nothing to do addressing their specific needs or interests. You have to find ways to collect that data. A CDP is going to make it easier for you to make sense of that data so that you can create these hyper-personalized campaigns that your customers are going to want, or you're going to see opt-outs and you're going to see bounces and you're going to see a loss of market share because they're going to gravitate to companies who get it and who adapted. CDPs are going to make it easier for you. All the 3 CDPs I listed before, and I know for sure Market My Limo does this as well, have integrations with most of the different platforms out there that you probably utilize, whether that's email marketing, it might be MailChimp or Constant Contact or Active Campaign. If you're running ads, it'll interface with the Meta platform, Google Ads, Bing Ads, WhatsApp, live agent chats, analytics programs, Zapier, Slack, and you name it, they integrate with hundreds and hundreds of different platforms where you're collecting your data from. So you don't even have to do that much legwork. You're going to sign into different accounts and grant access to bring all of that data together into your CDP, which is going to give you all of those highly intelligent insights, which are going to allow you to create those hyper-personalized campaigns. Because having high quality data in a centralized location is the first step in becoming AI ready. AI models need to be able to tap into a large volume of high quality data in a location in order to produce successful outputs. You need to have as much data as possible for these AI models and machine learning tools to tap into so that you can get a greater quality output. Data is the fuel source for AI. Up until this past year, really, it was reserved for the big guys: Amazon, Uber, Walmart, United, Microsoft, Google, all the different streaming platforms. They're all utilizing some level of machine learning in their platforms. They've been doing it for years. But when OpenAI came out last November, it became accessible to small businesses. It became accessible to all of us, really. We all can use it in our everyday lives now. Today, you could use it to understand your audience better. If you had a CDP and you were using AI, you could use that to look for purchasing patterns, behaviors. You could look at it for predicting trends, and you could look at it for identifying new audiences. You could look at it to see if there's an issue within your organization and how you might be able to pinpoint, is it a driver? Is it a particular service? Is it a location? You'll be able to connect with your customers in 24/7, where you're not necessarily limited by call center hours. You'll be able to predict churn. So if you think a customer is going to leave, you'll be able to launch different types of strategies, whether it's a loyalty campaign or a win-back strategy to prevent that churn. You could even use it to create an immersive experience. I know a lot of you do weddings. Rather than just relying on YouTube videos showing what the inside of a vehicle looks like or before and after videos, you can use AR to create and simulate an actually immersive experience where they can step inside your vehicle and see what it's actually like to be on board. You can use AI to boost your productivity. So rather than having your sales or your marketing staff or even your internal staff doing repetitive, mundane tasks that AI could do at a rapid fire pace, you can do that. You can use it to streamline your workflows and automate your entire sales channel. And we just talked a moment about how you can use it to create these hyper-personalized campaigns. You can use it, I said again a few minutes ago, to predict behavior. And you can use it to even launch a dynamic pricing model, which is like what the airlines use or what even Uber uses to look at adjusting your price in real time. It's taking into account market demand, competitor prices, and that will automatically adjust it. I know that a lot of the different reservation platforms actually have yield pricing or dynamic pricing built into it. That's a capability that you can tap into. If you're doing any type of advertising, you're already working with AI tools. So Meta's platform, Google's AI, their advertising platform, Bing, they all have machine learning tools built into their algorithms. So that's how smart bidding is done. Smart bidding is done with a machine learning and an algorithm to help figure out what pricing will impact your conversions and impact your ad performance. The ad customization. So what you might see is Different platforms will ask you to put in a variety of different headlines or a different set of descriptions or even a different set of creative. And it's going to look at the right combination to serve up based off of audience prediction and looking at some of those trends in that data. It's going to look at segmenting and advanced targeting. So not only is it going to look at who's converting, it's going to help identify future people that could convert. And it's going to look at fraud detection. So it'll look to see if a bot's trying to click on your ads, or it's going to look at click patterns. It uses language processing tools, just like ChatGPT, so it can understand what people's search intent is. So AI is already built into these tools, and you should utilize these tools. So for example, on the left is Meta, audience details, people who like your page or who people similar to them. That is machine learning. Advantage and creative on the lower left. Again, that's Facebook or Meta's cut at providing different variations based off of what is already performing well, and it's gonna help tailor that image or that creative and that content to see if it's going to garner the best increased conversions for you. On the right is different snippets from Google's ads interface. It's going to give you some recommendations at the top, and it's going to ask if you want to do a performance max campaign. Similarly, it can look at different keywords. It'll make suggestions to you in every one of these scenarios. Whether you're in Google Ads, you're on Facebook, you're in Bing, you're using LinkedIn ads, they're all going to provide you with recommendations of what you can try. Always, always look at the AI recommendations first. Do not just hit apply all. It's very powerful tools that they've built, but it's not always accurate. So you definitely want to review the content that's being served up or recommended to you, but it's very, very powerful. I highly encourage you guys to utilize the AI tools that are built into these advertising platforms. So to kind of recap where we're at, you collect data from all of these different sources. A CDP consolidates that data, and then AI can sit on top of the CDP to analyze that data faster. It's looking for patterns. It's going to be able to tell you what types of content to serve to which customers and when. And these are examples of highly personalized, hyper-personalization campaigns. This is from my own inbox. On the left, Lovely Skin knows that I buy my skin solutions through them about every 6 to 8 weeks. They know that I only buy Neocutis, and occasionally, sometimes I'll add in a serum from SkinCeuticals. This is an email I actually got about a week and a half ago. They know that it was about the 6-week mark. I got an email from them, and it's only for the products that I purchased. That's hyper-personalization at scale. In the middle is Grandin Road. They sent out their 30% off Christmas offer maybe about a week ago now. And the top of it was very generalized, but the entire bottom half of it was looking at purchases that I'd already made. And it was offering up recommendations for companion products on things that I might like or might consider. And then obviously you have your gold star on the right, which is Amazon, which will tell me what I'm running low on, what I might like to continue shopping for. It will give me 4+ deals because they know that I always sort by the star rating. It'll give me ideas of products that I might like based off of my past purchases and my past browsing behavior. But people expect to receive this type of communication when they get ads from you. They expect to see recommendations. They expect to see content that is tailored to them. It's called hyper-personalization, and that is what you need to strive for moving into 2024. Most of the email marketing tools that exist today that you probably utilize in your own operation have AI built into them. So for example, MailChimp, Constant Contact, Sendinblue, Paramount, ActiveCampaign, they all have built-in AI tools that will make this hyper-personalization possible. You can tap into your CDP. You can then map data points to various different things, whether that is a first name, it might be your rewards number, it might be loyalty points, it might be places you've traveled before, or your customers have traveled before. You can tap into that personalization right now. That data, that technology exists for businesses that are small to mid-size. It's not just reserved for huge companies. You can do advanced segmentation. You can tag your customers by people who tend to purchase airport runs versus people who are looking for the charter work. You can differently craft different messages for those different audience types. You can set up automated messaging and set up the workflow automation right through these tools so that every time someone signs up, you fire off an email. You can use the AI tools that are built in right now that can actually help you with content writing and subject line testing. On the right is an example from another hyper personalization from Office Depot. The bottom part of the email where you see Black Friday deals now, that's just a general email offer announcing that they've got a Black Friday sale on right now. But what is different is the section at the top. They're using my name, they're using my member number, they're showing me the rewards that I have that are expiring, and they're showing me my available balance. What it's doing is it's creating a sense of urgency for me. I don't want my rewards to expire, and they're giving me an incentive to use them in some capacity at their Black Friday sale. That's hyper-personalization at work. If you have a sales team, maybe you're going back to that earlier when I said maybe you're trying to tap into a new segment, and you want your sales team to pursue new corporate accounts or hotels or event venues. If they're creating their own sales, their own email campaigns outside of a MailChimp where you're directly targeting your customers, they can use a program called Lavender. And Lavender is an AI email coach that's going to look at the way they're writing their emails and give them strategies on how to write it better, better subject lines, and look at the way in which it will render on different email clients. So if somebody's opening an Outlook versus Gmail, it's going to tell you what that's going to look like to a person that's opening that. It'll give you suggestions on language. It'll give you it's literally an AI coach for sales teams. Highly recommend it. It's very affordably priced. You can even try it out for free to see if it works for you. Just like email marketing tools and platforms have AI built into it, most social media platforms have that as well. I know Hootsuite has ILLBA, and that is for writing. So if you need help writing your content for your social media posts, in addition to scheduling, you can use ILLBA. A lot of the different platforms have those. You can use Canva, for example, to create your social media graphics. I created a little snippet here with just a prompt, create a social media post for Instagram for save the date business meeting. And then it came up with all the different templates and styles that might fit that prompt. You can use generative AI tools like Jasper or ChatGPT, Bing AI, Canva. There are a number of them out there to actually generate the social media content for you. On the lower left is ChatGPT Plus, and on the upper right corner is a snippet from Jasper, where Jasper can actually let you select the platform that you're going to use, whether that's Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and the kind of content you want to create. And it will tailor the length of that content, the tone of that content, all of it to the platform and focus. Word on social media. So we're going to take just a break for 1 second on the AI topic because, well, actually, Paul and I were talking about this last week. We thought it would be important to stress that we're coming into a very contentious election season. I just saw what was going on in the limo growth group after the NLA election and some of the issues that were going on out there. And I'm going to encourage everybody, as I did last year, for those of you who were on the do's and don'ts of social media etiquette, to stay out of it. And if you can't, please, please pause before you post. You probably won't win over anybody and change their or sway their opinion of you, but you might lose clients over it. So if you're Chick-fil-A or your Hobby Lobby or maybe even Disney, and you can afford to lose large segments of your customer base, by all means, take a stand. But if you're not in that category, I highly, highly encourage you to avoid those sensitive or inflammatory topics or pause before you post. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Go back into AI. AI and customer support. This is probably one area that every single person on this call should be looking at for their organization. Chatbots and virtual assistants. They can make it so you are available 24/7 to your customers. They can use human-like conversation. You can have it be scripted or generative. But this will improve your overall response times. This will be able to answer questions much faster, and it can route it to people that, if you need to have a sales lead come in, your AI, your virtual assistant can answer that initial inquiry and then get it into the hands of the right individual so that you can close that deal faster. Natomi and Ada are great AI bots. They're excellent AI bots. They're very smart. And the Natomi one actually has an entire segment that's already pre-scripted for travel and hospitality. And then it learns on top of that. It can connect into your CDP. It can connect into your data and start learning on what issues your customers face. It can start figuring out what your policies are. It can start acting and interacting with your customers in a conversational, human-like way 24/7. This is not to remove or get rid of your call center in any way, shape, or form, or to replace your support staff. This is to give your support staff added tools to make their job easier. Now, for those of you who may say, well, you know what, I don't really want to get into AI customer support, but I could really use some help in the sales process. There is a technology that's specific to this industry called the Quote Bot. I've seen it on a number of websites. It's not a true virtual assistant, but it does work for lead closing. It does help that process along. I would highly encourage you guys to take a look at it. It can connect into your website seamlessly, and it can guide a person through the sales process so they can get a quote faster and right online, and then they can make that decision on whether or not they want to take action. So that's a good one to take a look at. This is probably the single largest area that most of you are probably already using AI. AI in content creation. So natural language processing tools are ChatGPT, Bing AI, Claude, and Jasper. They draft content based off of prompts. So it could be keywords, it could be keyword suggestions, it could be page titles for your SEO, blog posts, social media posts, email campaigns, subject lines, web page articles, reports. It can give you topics to be considering. It can even provide detailed research on suggested products. It's very, very powerful, but it's not always accurate. I'm sure that you've tried this out before or seen this firsthand. If you put in blog posts on upcoming events for the holiday season in Chicago, as an example, depending on what tool you're using, you might be getting data back from 2021. So you need to fact check. You need to make sure that the data that you're asking for from your AI is accurate. Good prompts are the key. Here's an example of a prompt that I put in just to give you guys an example of what a good prompt is. Create an advertising campaign about company name, Erie Charters Transportation Group Transportation Services for businesses in Chicago metropolitan area hosting holiday parties for their employees, and then include key messages and slogans and choose the best media channels for promotions. Rather than just saying, write me an email marketing campaign for XYZ, this is what it comes back with. It tells me a suggested title, it gives me some key messaging to focus on, some suggested slogans, which channels I should target and why, and then a suggested launch time. Now, I may not leverage all of these. I may not agree with all of these, but it gives me a foundation to build a campaign from. And it looks at things that I may not even have considered. So my prompt tips for you are, when you're using tools like ChatGPT or Jasper or Claude, remember they're very conversational. You can get very, very specific. They're built on natural language processing. So you can talk to it as though you're talking to anyone else. You don't have to use robotic language. The more information you can provide to the tool, the better off you'll be, the higher the quality of the output. So in some programs, you can actually include website links. In some programs, you can include visuals and images. The more data you provide, the higher the quality of the output. You can even include tone of voice. You can include call to action. You can include all sorts of data, phone numbers, emails, and it will help craft a very detailed message or very detailed information based off of that prompt. Some additional prompts. Write an 800-word blog post about subject and include these keywords in the headline, subheading, and body paragraphs. That's a great way to write a blog post. You can obviously put in more detailed information in there, but instead of just writing a blog post about upcoming holiday events in Chicago, you try to give it more detail. Create eye-catching subject line for my services that mentions the subscriber's name and interest. This again would try to be targeting something that would be on the cusp of that hyper-personalization. So I put in create an eye-catching subject line for my charter transportation service that specifically mentions the subscriber's names and includes a holiday theme. And ChatGPT Plus, because that's what I use, has subscriber name. Get ready to deck the halls with exclusive holiday charter details or deals. Maybe I like that, maybe I don't, but it is showing me some level of personalization. In the link on the bottom here, which will be included in the slide deck that Paula sends out, are some lists of like ChatGPT prompts you can use. You can use these same prompts in just about any one of the generative AI tool programs that generate content, whether that's for SEO or blog or social media. You can use these same prompts there. You can also just type in Gen AI prompts, and you can actually purchase prompts by the thousands to help you learn how to write better prompts in your marketing. That's how you're going to take advantage of AI. It's all prompt based. But however you use these tools, remember, they are just tools. You have to make the content your own. It's a foundational tool. You have to apply your voice to it. You have to put your seal, your brand, your spin on it. Otherwise, you're not really leveling the playing field. It's just the same content as everyone else. And it's very easy to spot. A lot of people have said, oh, no, you can't spot AI. Yes, you can. You absolutely can spot content that is written exclusively by AI and has not had any personalization added to it, any voice applied to it. So please make the content your own. Along the same lines with voice is voice search. When you're writing your content and using these generative AI tools to write your copy, you need to be taking into account the rising popularity of voice search. This is another big trend you're going to continue seeing in 2024 as people start relying more and more on asking Alexa, Siri, or Google questions. The way you optimize for voice search, especially if you're using Gen AI, is to use natural conversational language. You include FAQs. You make sure you have what's called featured snippets and schema written behind the scenes so that search engines know what this page is about and can utilize that for voice search. And you have to be optimized for local search because so many of the voice searches have words and phrases like near me or close by included. So you must optimize your content for voice search. Here are a couple examples of what I wanted to show you. So if I were to say what car services are near me, and these are real searches that I did from my phone, Siri thought I was asking about actual car services like auto repair shops. When I said, what are the top charter bus companies in Chicago? Because it's Siri's looking at Yelp reviews. It's not looking at Google reviews. So you can't discount Yelp. A lot of people just focus exclusively on Google reviews. You need to look at what your rating is and your profile is on Yelp as well, because that's what Siri's using. How much is a private car service from Oak Brook to O'Hare? And then it gives me some websites based on literally proximity to Oak Brook and O'Hare based off of my location, which is why local search is so important. And the last one, what companies offer wedding transportation in Chicago? And again, it's using data that's pulled from the top wedding providers based off of Yelp's reviews. It looks at different companies in the area that provide that service. And the last one is Windy City. I'm going to show you why they showed up in voice search. This page is their wedding transportation page that pulled up in voice search, and it's because it was well optimized for voice search. It has FAQs, but the most important part of it, in addition to the schema, which you can't see behind the scenes, is that it's written using conversational language. So if you're not sure how to optimize for voice search, this is your blueprint. FAQs, schema, and use natural conversational language. And here's a list of my favorite Gen AI tools. I use these about, I'd say almost all of them every single day, or at least multiple times per week. ChatGPT, Jasper, Bing AI, those are largely your content generating tools. SEMrush, that's what I use for SEO. Moz doesn't have a very good AI component, just being straight up with you. I still use that tool, but SEMrush has a lot of AI capabilities built into it. So it can tell me topics that people are searching for, keywords that I might want to consider, content that might be helpful for me to generate. I can look at a lot of different competitive research and insights on ads as well. Then you have your more of your creative ones, which Adobe Creative Suite, which is what I use. And then DALL-E 2, then Gage and Gamma and Canva all will give you visuals that you can generate with AI. Lavender and MailChimp are great for, and most of my clients use MailChimp, which is why that one's there, but Lavender and MailChimp for email. Hootsuite is what most of my clients use for social media. So that's why I included that. And then Yext and actually Elementor. That's Elementor with AI is a web building tool, web page building tool. And then Yext is great for reputation management and local SEO. These are the tools that I use. I have included a link at the bottom that actually tells you a list of all the different AI tools that you could consider. Not all, I should say, there's thousands of them, but this one will segment it out so you can filter it by type. So if you are looking for all the different support options, so maybe you want to look at those virtual chat bots, you can search by support. If you're looking for productivity tools for your sales team, you can search by productivity tools. If you're looking for visuals, you can search by visuals. If you're looking for Gen AI and specifically on content writing, you can search by that. One thing I will offer, I will urge all of you to do though, is to look at the reviews. And if they have a free version, try the free version first to see how well you like it. Some of these platforms are great. Some of them are not so great. So figure out which ones are best for your organization before you make an investment into that technology. So to recap, what I want you to be focusing on, especially as you're thinking ahead to 2024, focus on gathering as much data as you can, first-party data that you can. Get a cookie consent tool on your website. Add a privacy policy to your website if it's not already there. Invest and create that disaster recovery plan. Know who's going to communicate if there's a data breach. Know what your different partners are doing in terms of data and data security. Understand where your access to your data backups are. If you don't have backups, start making them. Invest in a CDP. Start consolidating that data so you can utilize it, so that you can start creating workflows and automations and highly personalized campaigns for your customers. Use the NLPs and start generating content, but fact check, make it your own. So start trying to use ChatGPT, start trying out Jasper or Claude, start using Bing AI. See how you can use it in your organization as a foundational tool. No matter what you do though, as you're creating communications, as you're writing web copy, as you're writing social media posts, think about personalization. Think about who your customer is. Think about your audience and how you can personalize that content to them. And because you're all in the service industry, I highly, highly recommend you consider implementing some level of a chatbot or virtual assistant into your customer support. And that's just going to make a meaningful impact to your customers next year. It really will. Not to replace your support team, but to make it easier for them and to meet your customers where they are when they want to connect with you. And finally, I truly believe we are on the cusp of that great leap. AI has transformed just about every industry and every market. We're seeing it at rapid pace. I cannot stress enough that you need to adapt. If you want to make that leap, you need to adapt. Your customers are still going to be your top priority, but how you market to them, what you market to them, how you connect with them has to adapt and evolve. If you don't, I can assure you, you will be left behind. Yes, regulations are for sure on the horizon. There's no question about that. But companies are going to continue evolving. Companies are going to continue to look at how they can use AI to push things out faster, better than, faster speeds than ever before. And it's all going to come back down to the data, how well you know your customers. If you have a good customer base, start giving your customers the content that they want. If you think you might be losing a customer, start launching those win-back strategies. Use the data to your advantage to build your customers, to find new ones, to create retention programs. It's all going to come back down to data and utilizing AI to get yourself there. That's what's going to let you make that leap forward. So my challenge to all of you, my hope is that you're going to look at 2024 as an opportunity to connect in a more meaningful way with your customers, using AI, using CDPs, using the data that you've been collecting for years on your customers to give them those highly personalized experiences that are going to allow you to move forward and make that great leap. And with that, we'll turn it over for questions.
I just, I didn't want to interrupt, but I just want to share with all of you one thing, and then I'll go through the questions that we have in the chat box. This whole idea of backups and remote data storage is so very important. I'll share something that I happen to know. It's related to Limo Anywhere, but it could really apply to anyone. A couple of years ago, when they identified a potential attack, they immediately shut everything down. And many people were angry, upset, but they had not been backing up their data even daily. And so Limo Anywhere went in and they looked at all of their users and said, we're going to add a backup, I think once or twice a day. I don't remember exactly how many. Fast forward, in the last few months, they went back in and looked to see if operators were, users were still maintaining the backups. More than half of them has shut off the backups. Guys, I can't impress upon you enough how this is so important, because if you lose your data, it's forever. And there is no way to recover it. And it's as easy as even getting a file or a jump drive and storing it somewhere remotely if you don't have a lot of data, but it's just so critical. Tracy has her hand up.
Yeah, since you're on the disaster recovery or the data backup, is the question that I had is, Maren, do you do anything with disaster recovery plans? Do you help an operator create that plan or put it together?
I can, yes. So I won't be able to necessarily look at every aspect, but what I can do is I can certainly sit down with you and I can identify all the areas and the components that would entail having a pretty solid disaster recovery plan. Paula, to your story, Tracy, I know that you'll remember this. A few years ago, related to that, there was a reservation system that went down for 3.5 weeks. They made the mistake of having all of their backup data along with their primary data. They had backups, but it was stored in the same location. All of their customers were down for 3.5 weeks. Had that happened today, that would be business ending for some operations.
Absolutely.
You cannot be complacent on your data security. If nothing else, if you take away nothing else from today's meeting, what you should take away is that you need to start being proactive about your data and how you store it, how you secure it, how you access it. You have to have that data. And to Paul's point, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And so using that example is as an operator, what do you ask your provider that's holding all of your data? What is the question that you ask them as far as where is it stored? And then how do you know that they're telling you the truth?
So you actually want to see documentation. I know when I was working for a ground transportation operator, we had documentation on our data storage and our data facilities. So you would want to ask, what is your disaster recovery plan in event of a breach? So some of those questions that you would want to include in there: how are you securing your data? Where are you securing your data? What kind of protocols do you have in place? What kind of liability insurance do you have in the event of a cyber breach? You want to ask very detailed questions. Are your servers stored in different locations? I mean, there's a lot of different questions that you would want to get into with a reservation system, but most companies, and I know for sure, just in what I saw with the Limo Anywhere outage, last year, whatever it was, a year and a half ago, they absolutely have data recovery in different locations because they were able to restore in less than six hours. When you see companies be able to bring companies or websites or different tools back online within a matter of hours, that means they actually have a very good data and disaster recovery plan because they can pull up those backups. It takes time to restore. It takes time to pull all of that up. But when you're down for a couple weeks, or it's extending into several days, then you know that there's a problem. So it's better if you ask these companies now, hey, what's your plan? What do you have in place? So, I'm happy to work with different individuals if they're interested in looking at what they have and go through some of those capabilities. But
and I know some consultants too that do that as well as a matter of course. But
so that's so interesting, because I'm sure everyone on this call, as you're participating in RFPs and you're answering all of the questions, that's one of the sections is disaster recovery plan. And we're always answering those questions for our customers, but I don't think we as the customer
I
do a
think they
very
have.
good job. I'm pretty sure we're guilty of it. I don't think we do a very good job as far as asking our vendors their disaster recovery plan. So that's a really, really good point, and that we should be asking those questions.
At my last job, because they were using very client-sensitive data, we actually built our own remote disaster recovery buildings in Washington, D.C. and across the country. And they were vaults, literally built as vaults, where all the data was collected, because during 9/11 was a very big lesson for many technology companies that lost their data. And my company was one of them, because we had people in the towers, and we lost servers that could not be recovered. They were gone, they disintegrated. So even though you might not think you have a lot of data, think of it even in the most simplistic terms. You have a PC on your desk, and all of a sudden it crashes, and you go to, Geek Squad, and they can't recover your files with all your customer information on them, because that's the only place you store them. Start even from that simplest point, you're at risk.
Yeah,
know?
very good point.
Mhm.
There was a question that Michael McDaniels had asked, and then Vicky was able to give an answer, and I just want to see if Maren has anything to add to that. The question, I just lost it. Why would searching in private mode be safer than just your regular search? Vicky
so-
had this, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. What was the response? Go ahead.
Vicky had responded that it blocks tracking of your search history. Like she said, when you look up pizza places, then suddenly you get a lot of pizza ads.
That's correct. So it's not allowing cookies to drop on. So if you're doing a search, it's not allowing a third-party cookie to drop on and track your behavior and track what you're searching for. So you're not going to start getting those retargeted ads. It's just literally you're able to search in a private way where it's not going to be, your data is not being tracked from that standpoint.
So to that end, so like if I'm looking for airline tickets to go to Orlando, and I'm not in private mode, and I go to United.com, and it's $767. I then get on the website and say, hey, honey, we got tickets for $767. Go back to it. Now they're $810. If you're in private mode, we've tried that, and the prices don't change. Is there any truth to that? Is that just a dumb luck?
So I've heard that, and a while ago, I would tell you that may have been what was going on, but United gets it too. They're not doing that anymore. Now I can go into privacy mode, and I've done this myself. I can go into privacy mode. I can go onto different browsers, and the price that I'm getting is the same. It's consistent. So there was a point in time a couple years ago where they were doing that, and it was that, dynamic pricing, yield pricing, supply and demand.
Yeah.
I have not seen evidence of that in recent years, but within the past year, at least, for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Travis had asked, for reference purposes, who's using a CDP tool besides add-ons? And I think that's a really good question. And so just to clarify, CDP is the same as a CRM?
No, it is not. No, it is not. A CRM and a CDP can be used together. So a CRM is a customer relationship management tool. A CDP is a customer data platform. So a CRM, so for example, HubSpot has a CDP tool, and it also has a CRM. Salesforce is another example. Salesforce has a CDP that will integrate with tons and tons of different technologies and platforms, and then they have their customer relationship management tool specifically. So they're not one and the same. They are very similar, but they're not the same.
Okay, so does anyone
collecting data? So the CDP is collecting data. It is literally a centralized hub. Think about it like that. It's like a hub where you can dump all your data. You start collecting it in and just bringing it all in, similar to a CRM. But a CRM, you're looking more at your sales and marketing efforts and everything. The CDP is just, it's collecting all of this data so that you can use your CRM tool. You can use your email marketing tool. You can use all of these different things, but it's coming back to a single point for all of the data. So you're not having to go into Facebook. You're not having to go into your SMS messages, your call center logs, all of that. It's just bringing it all together. And then all these different tools sit on top of it and integrate it.
That makes sense. Does anyone want to answer that? Is anyone using a CDP tool besides add-ons?
You should, because that's what's going to create the hyper personalization.
And can you review what were some of the other CDP examples that you could use? So say if you're not on Limo Anywhere or using add-ons, say you're on a different system, what else could you use?
So I have personally worked inside of Segment, which is by Twilio. So Segment is a really good one. Klaviyo and High Touch, those are good ones. I'm thinking more of along the lines of, you're not necessarily interested in spending a whole lot of money like on a Salesforce level CDP or even a HubSpot level CDP. So these are more geared towards your small to mid-sized companies where you can even try a free version at first to see how well it's working for you for like 30 days. I think some of them offer. Segment's a really good one though. That would be a really good one to try out. And if you're not quite ready to do that, you can even try Zapier and seeing if you can connect Zapier into all of these different areas too, because it does the automation and connects with a lot of areas. It doesn't consolidate all of your data together like a CDP would, but it would allow you to start kind of at least you're dipping your toes in the water, if you will. But I would recommend looking at Segment.
Excellent. Yeah, and I was surprised when were showcasing all of the different AI tools. I had no idea there were that many out there. I mean, I was familiar with four or five of them, but that entire list.
Thousands, I mean, literally thousands of AI tools that are out there now. And pretty much every time I open up a program that I have used for years, and it could be like there's an update that has to take place, I'll go in and all of a sudden it'll say, hey, look what's new, AI this, AI that. I mean, it's into literally almost every single one of my tools has an AI component built into it now. And you can use it for just about everything. But again, I cannot impress upon enough. Paul and I had a long conversation about this. Please do not just take what ChatGPT has written or Jasper has written and just say, this is great for a blog post. This is perfect for email. This is exactly what I was going to use for my social media campaigns. I'm telling you, you can spot it. You can absolutely spot it. Your gateway experience, I mean, like, it's like all these elevate. I mean, there's certain keywords and phrases that ChatGPT just recycles through and regurgitates over and over again. You can spot it like that. So please, make sure you're putting your stamp on it. This is where it's an excellent foundational tool. I would look at it like this. What may have taken your marketing team, or maybe you, if you don't have a whole marketing team or whatever, may have taken you, 3 or 4 days to write, you can produce 6 times that amount as a single post in a fraction of a time. But then you have all this time savings that you have. Use it to put your voice into something. Use it to personalize it. Use it to make it your own so that somebody's looking at it. It's well-written content that reflects your brand. You want to put your own value proposition, your own differentiators in it.
There was a public television show a few months ago. I was telling Maren that it was a group of people that were just talking about marketing, and they did a sample write-up about travel, best places to go in Chicago. I'm just making that up, whatever it was. And then they fact-checked it, and more than half the places were closed. Yeah. So you have to remember the data is only as good and as relative as the owner keeps it. So you could go out there and say, I'm going to write a blog about pizza places in Chicago. Well, we all know that a lot of places have been closing in Chicago. You wouldn't just go on that word and say, well, it came from chat, came from the AI results, and it's great. You got to fact check it, because there are
different tools have different, the different tools have different dates in which their machine learning goes up to. So GPT-4, I think the latest update maybe was August. It could have either been April or August of 2023. After that, there is the learning only goes that far.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, Jasper is 2021, and because it's built on GPT 3.5. So you need to look at where it is and the level of its development, what engine it's using. Otherwise, you could be putting together content that is literally not relevant. I mean, it's completely inaccurate.
Yeah. And that the other part of that was Maren and I had this conversation at least twice, because I keep asking her, do you feel that ChatGPT is going to replace the tech writers and the writers that help with websites and things like that? And we have resoundingly come to the conclusion that it will not, because there is something to be said, and you can chime in. I mean, there's something to be said about having a true writer edit and review that content.
In fact, Paula, adding to that, almost every writer I know is using ChatGPT Plus and Jasper or Claude. They're all using it. Why? Because again, you can say, I need to write 20 blog posts for 20 different clients. I can get my foundation going and have all of those posts pre-written. And then instead of saying I can only write 5 this week, I can write 20. And then I can put my unique spin, my voice into it, customize the language, change things up, and be able to provide more content at a much faster clip. That's where AI comes in, is that it really can deliver it at scale and at unprecedented speeds. What would have taken you days or weeks, it can do in seconds. But you still have to put and invest the time into it to make it your own.
We have
Valid points. Yeah, there's just a comment here from Terrence Bass. I've used Bard and have gotten good results. Is this considered a good AI tool? Bard?
I personally don't like Bard. I've tried it out a couple times. If I was going to use like one of the tools I use, I actually like Bing AI more. I think that Bing AI is much more powerful than Bard. I've caught Bard with too many mistakes. I mean, so for me at least, if it's just you're going to be doing it for general like intro content, sure. But if you're trying to do something with any depth, I don't like Google's Bard. I like Bing, or I like Jasper. Jasper is really good. I also like Claude. Claude is very good as well.
There you go. Thank you. We have a comment, some feedback from Deanna, as well as a question. If I may say, definitely recommend coming up with a recovery plan when dealing with social media. Most social media sites don't have a support center to assist you when your business page is hacked. I've seen people lose their business page and all their followers and start from scratch because they were hacked and could not recover their page. For an extra security for your data, what are your thoughts of using a VPN as an exact protection? As extra protection? Okay.
So a VPN does not mean that if you're using a VPN does not necessarily mean it's not foolproof. I'm going to say that right off the bat. I know of a client in California who had, I would say, extremely tight security on a lot of their different applications, their different accounts. Two-factor authentication turned on just about everywhere, changed passwords pretty frequently, and they still got hacked. So it can happen. You know, I mean, the hacking tools are becoming more and more sophisticated. So yeah, a VPN is great, but don't let it give you a false sense of security that if you have a VPN that you will not be hacked. Or if you use a virtual private server for your website, or you try any of these other things, don't fall into the habit of that you will then be immune to some of these threats. You still need to be very vigilant on how you protect your data, how often you're checking your data. Another just tip for better living, please do not use the same password everywhere. And if you are using the same password everywhere, use a password, like a highly complex two-factor password storage facility where you have one single password, like for an account that's keeping all of your other passwords secure. I cannot tell you how many times those hacks happen for that reason, where you use the same password which you thought was secure in 4 or 5 different places, and all of a sudden, oh no, you've been hacked in one place and now you've got problems over here and problems over here and problems over here. So change your passwords, use two-factor wherever you can. From the social media standpoint, the fewer managers you have on your page, the better off you will be, and every one of them should be using two-factor authentication.
Right, so guilty there as well.
Pardon me?
I said guilty there as well.
Yeah, so you should have 2FA set on to anything that's sensitive, and especially if you have multiple people logging into it. Same thing for your website. So if you have a lot of people who are logging into your website, or you have more than one person logging into your website, you should set the rules up front. You need to have a complex password. It can't be the same as a password you use someplace else. And you're going to have to turn on two-factor, and it has to change every so often. I put that out there with every one of my clients, because I cannot tell you how often that is the source of a hack for a website, at least. Core passwords. So
going back to the stored passwords, are there 1 or 2 apps that you would recommend?
There's so many.
I know, I was going to say, not really. I mean, I use my Apple one, but for all my passwords, but um,
And I'm
there
using
are,
mine on
yeah, there
Gmail.
are a lot of fast, I'm just not gonna fast pass is a good one. I don't know. I would Google that. I mean, honestly, I don't have a specific one. I just use Apple because I'm an Apple girl, so everything is tied into a very secure Apple password storage, which uses facial recognition to make sure that it's. I mean, that's just that's for me. But it's more of just I have a laundry list of passwords I keep, and you want to keep track of them and make sure that you're changing frequently and using complex and.
No, all makes
Really
sense.
limit the amount of people who have access to sensitive data. I mean, that's another big one, is just really limit that.
Yeah. That's probably the
Awesome.
biggest, that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
There's only two of us in my technical side, and we don't share passwords at all.
Yeah.
And if we do, it's only secondary, and then we immediately go in and change them.
Right.
It really is, as I've been hacked so many times personally, as Maren says, I need
You really have.
28 digit password with 2 factors, the last comment she made. And I think I'm trying to be extraordinarily careful. I use my Gmail has a password storage that
Yep.
works pretty well, and it will detect if your password is being used in multiple places,
That's what
or
Apple
if
does
it's been
too.
compromised. I noticed some of the banks and some of the other organizations are also starting to offer that kind of service. Many banks are offering password protection and just general security type things, because they want to make sure that people are staying as safe as possible, because there's a lot of issues going on even in the banking industry with Zelle and other products where people's identities are being stolen. So
And I recognize that it can be annoying if every single time, like I know I use PayPal for a lot of things for paying things
yeah.
online. And every time I sign into PayPal, because I have 2-factor, it sends me a text message first with a code, and then I put in the code, and then it will actually send me a separate email with a separate code. So I mean, there's multiple points of checking to make sure that this is what I want to do. Yeah, it's really annoying, but the flip side of it is, if you get hacked, what's going to be more annoying? Or to Deanna's, I think her point of, if you lose access to your social media presence and that goes away, think about the pain level involved there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an inconvenience. Yeah, it's going to be annoying, but it's going to be a lot more annoying if you can't gain access to your business assets.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions I see in the chat. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments, as long as we have Maren with us?
You're all letting it soak in, I can tell. I see the smoke rising. It's a lot of information here. I think it's
Yeah, and it's great information. It's timely. So it was mentioned previously, Paula, she'll be sending out the deck that Maren had put together. She'll send out that deck, as well as the recording. So this recording will be on ILLBA's YouTube channel. So those of you that are new today to joining our coffee meeting know that we do have a YouTube channel. So all of the coffee meetings we have held in the past, Maren has presented in the past as well. You can find those on the YouTube channel. So feel free to go there and review past meetings, if you will.
And if anyone has any specific questions that you want to talk about offline, just one-on-one, you want me to look at your data recovery plan, or you have questions about something, maybe your IT department or your reservation system sent back to you, and you say, is this enough or is this sufficient? I'm happy to review that. If you have questions about specific AI tools that you've tried out, or that you want to try out, but you have some concerns about it, or you want to know how best to use it, and you want to do that one-on-one, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have those conversations.
Yeah, and I have to agree, there was a comment that was just put up by Peggy. I have learned so much today. Thanks for the invite. P.S. I also learned how much that I do not know. Likewise, I'm with you.
Oh, and I'll be honest, I'm scratching the surface. I think most people are. Nobody really saw. I don't think people saw the extent of what was going to happen when OpenAI released ChatGPT last November. I'm telling you, in the 20 some plus years I've been doing this is the first year where I feel like every time I blink, something new is happening. Every time I open up my computer, there is something new that I need to be looking at and taking into account. It is changing at rapid fire pace. And I mean, it's very exciting, but it's also, there's just so much to absorb. And just when you think you know enough, there's a whole nother set of data to learn. So.
Yeah, and I just want to give a quick example. I've only tried it once, but it just shows the power behind it is doing an interview or asking ChatGPT, you know, like you're in an interview setting and they ask this question and how are you going to respond? And then all of a sudden it's responding back and forth with you as if you're talking to another person. But what great practice in, you know, going into a conversation that you're really nervous about, or an interview, or even a sales presentation, and having the computer converse back and forth with you.
Absolutely. In fact, you can use it to help you with presentations or speaking. It may not, you can use like Venngage or Gamma to generate slides if you need that.
Yeah.
But you can also type in, I'm going to be giving a presentation on X, which I did not do this, by the way, but you can. You can say, I'm going to be giving a presentation on X. What are some of the points that I should be hitting? And it's going to give you suggestions back on by slide what you should include. It's very, very powerful tool. But again, it's only as good as the most recent model or machine learning update that has taken place. So don't rely on it for concrete dates and events and things like that. Restaurants, use it as a foundational tool, always fact check.
Maren, thank you so very much.
Pleasure.
Even I always learn something, and I talk to you almost every week. So that says a lot right there, doesn't it? I know.
Okay. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here with everybody again. And yeah.
Thank you.
See you all soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maren.
For those of you that are staying with us, I'm going to take it local for a little bit and just see if anybody has any questions, concerns, anything in the Chicago market that we need to be paying attention to. For myself, I've recently had some shoppers coming in and complaining about the booth at O'Hare, that not only is it not scanning, but evidently they're using the person at the booth just to activate the kiosk. So it's not that it's not scanning on their phone. The scanner works fine, but they're having to call over the attendant every single time that somebody wants to scan their device because they need to activate the computer. So I know that we do have a meeting coming up with O'Hare. Paula, when is that? Is that like next week or is it next month?
Mid-December.
So mid-December. So I think I'm going to send an email this week to O'Hare asking them what is going on, you know, with the kiosks and just the delay that it creates every single time that we have to call over an attendant just to be able to scan our tickets when our customers are waiting in the terminals to be picked up. That just seems, it seems to be a waste of time. It seems like we're paying somebody. It's supposed to be the technology being more efficient, and that does not seem to be the case. Is anyone else experiencing the same thing or anything different?
Yeah, I've been hearing it too, but always remember that you have access to the emergency numbers and the complaint form or comment form from Fly Chicago, and we post it every week in our newsletter. It's really important that you use that, and if you're having multiple issues, I don't know if you've heard, Tracy, but I'm hearing it's more at night that it's a problem than during the day, but I can't confirm that just from, it's specific to the people who've been contacting me about it. But please make sure you also communicate that and use the tools, because it's great when we contact them, they're very responsive, but if they hear from more people that, you know, I had a problem last night, or I had a problem this morning, it took me 10 minutes and nobody came out. I'm hearing things like nobody came out right away. They have a video and recordings of every shift. So if you really have had a problem and you waited a long time for someone to come out and fix the machine or help you scan, they can go back right to the shift and know exactly who was on duty and follow up on it.
Well,
so,
I just don't understand why a person is being paid to activate the kiosk.
We got to ask them about that, because I don't know the answer about the machinery and if it's you know, where the problem lies, because I just started hearing about it too.
And Kimberly, I just copied her message as well, because I am going to send out an email this week. is Kimberly just attested to the same thing that I just said, is they have to scan the badge every single time after each car.
Yeah,
That
it shouldn't be
would be
because the
such a
equipment's.
waste of time.
Yeah, well, then that's what we have to ask them. In fact, I might just say, are there any enhancements coming up? I'll ask them today. I'm also gonna put a link in here. If you are renewing your Chicago stuff, you probably already saw this, but they're not sending out electronic appointments right now like we used to have when you did your livery renewal. Everything is online, and they have been sending out multiple announcements, but I attached the link here. It has all of the instructions for you to do your renewal. And with important dates, because we have holidays coming up, and you must do your renewal for January 1 by the Friday before New Year's, which I think is the 29th. I can't remember. I'm brain dead, but it's all in there. Also, you can select appointments. They have an appointment portal now. So you can go in and do your renewals. So the times that they'll be taking appointments is listed in there as well. So it's pretty good, and it has a lot of details. Because some of you have been calling and asking, how come I didn't get the announcement from the city that, the appointment and all that? They're not scheduling you anymore. They're leaving it up to you to schedule yourself. Also, the livery card, which is what we typically get from them, and a sticker that we are supposed to affix to the windshield, there will no longer be a sticker. You will be asked to put your hard card, your livery card, in the passenger side dashboard. Art Rento and I are looking for some solutions to affixing it to the window. We're not quite done yet. We're looking at some products where you can actually slide it into a pocket and stick it to the windshield. Because we're both concerned that if you put it on the dash, it's a 5x5 card, very lightweight, it could blow away or get lost. And it is a real pain in the neck to get another
So
one.
this is the same livery card that you've always put in your glove box before?
Yes, and now it's gonna go on your windshield. And they're gonna get rid of they used to do the livery sticker in the various colors. But even their staff has been complaining that the stickers were a real pain in the neck, and so they decided to eliminate them and do what Taxi does. Taxi also displays their card, but it's different because they display it on the inside facing the customer with a light. But here they want it on the dash so that the inspector can see it. You don't ever write your hard card. You don't permanently affix it to anything, because if the officer comes over and needs it, on the back is your VIN number. So you don't want to permanently affix it. So we'll, soon as we figure out some options, we'll publish them to everyone. We're looking at a couple of things right now to see if we can make it simple for everybody. But they're also asking me for feedback on the process this year. So if you have any, please email me and let me know. I'll be putting reminders out. They are really trying hard to simplify this process. And I know last year, many people said it was very quick and painless to go in and do their renewals. I think I was out there in 10 minutes. I think Art with 20 cars was in there for a half hour. I'm sure Windy City, you were there a little longer, probably because you have more vehicles. But they are really looking for ways to make it more efficient for us. So any feedback you have, good or bad, send it along, and I will make sure they get to it. That's all.
Paula, if you have it readily handy, do you have the two links? One, the complaint form, and then the number. What did you say it was, the number for emergency?
Yeah. If it's okay, because I don't want to. I'd have to go into another folder. I will put it in the. I'll put it in the email that you'll be getting with the links to this presentation. Okay.
And again, that information, the complaint form link that she's going to send out, is we just keep stressing to our chauffeurs, anytime they see anything in the lot, if they see anything at O'Hare, if they see the hustlers at O'Hare, security's not treating them right, that they can use that complaint form. It literally takes 1 to 2 minutes. You just quickly fill it out. It's really important to have the date and the time so that they can pull video. But the more chauffeurs that are on the ground and they're able to complain in real time makes a difference. If Paula and I are complaining a day, 2 days after the fact, it's just really difficult for them to have to go back to that video and to do anything about it. Whereas if the chauffeurs are able to spend 1 or 2 minutes pulled over, fill out the complaint form really quickly, odds are that they can see it and maybe do something about it quickly. And when you've got 40, 50 chauffeurs complaining about something that's happening, and that could be as simple as a backup in the booth there, that it's a 20-minute backup, you got 40 or 50 chauffeurs complaining, that carries a lot more weight than just Paula, myself, and maybe somebody else complaining a day later.
Also,
So
don't forget,
please-
it's good for compliments too, because I heard some really good feedback from a couple of my own drivers in the last few weeks. So
Mhm.
while it is for complaints, it's also for compliments, and I'm sure they'll be happy to have them. And I see that Kimberly asked about the hustlers. I can tell you what we know so far. They're very much aware of the hustling situation at O'Hare and Midway. Midway is doing stings, and so is O'Hare. The problem is this. We've had some conversation with BACP, and I personally expressed my concern that it's not effective, and we're not sure what kind of citations are being issued because they're coming back literally within hours or even the next day. So I know there were some internal meetings with BACP and aviation. We're not privy to those. It was a couple of weeks ago. But I did share with BACP a set of instructions for reviewing manifests. One of the possible options may be that you could be spot checked on at the airport for your manifest so that you could prove you have a trip, either on your phone, paper, text. So I provided them with an explicit one-page document to explain what kinds of manifests most of you have, because some of you are doing text messages with your clients and other things. They're trying to figure out what's the best solution, obviously. So that was something we provided last month. We're not done talking about it. Every meeting we go to, we talk about the hustling. So it's just one of those things that's as I explained to everybody, it's a global problem, not just a Chicago problem. Go
So
anywhere.
Paula, you had mentioned that your communication with them and your opinion is that their consequences are ineffective. Can
I
you go
believe
into that a little
so.
bit more and what you mean by that? And
Okay.
the reason I'm asking you to explain it is I think it's really, really important for operators to all be on the same page. And since we are doing it right, and you're teaching your chauffeurs on how to operate effectively and legally at the airports, that this shouldn't affect all of us that are wanting to do it right. Paul, if you could
So
explain.
on a
that little bit.
technicality, if you are operating without a license, for example, and they come up to you and you don't have a livery license or chauffeur license and all that, that is supposed to be a $1,200 fine. We don't believe that the airport has that kind of authority to write those kinds of tickets. So we've been kind of pushing back to say, okay, so what is the penalty? And we're waiting for an answer. We believe they're writing parking tickets. So if they write a parking ticket, and this is strictly my line of thinking, and I have shared it with Tracy and the board, is that's a slap on the wrist. A $1,200 ticket is a little more severe. So there has to be more conversation around that, because the regulations do require it. I did talk to someone, and I'm not an expert in New York, but I understand that they have fines similar to that of $1,000. And I know. And David's nodding his head. So I got mixed opinions on whether that's actually effective from the New York folks that I talked to. So I think we have a way to go. They are aware it's a problem. They are willing to listen to whatever we come up with. But it was, interestingly enough, I think sometimes they confuse livery with Uber. And we also are making sure they understand that if somebody's hustling, that does not necessarily mean they're a true limo operator. They may be doing Uber on the side or what have you. So we're doing a lot of education on that as well.
And I think what's different, or what we became aware of as we're having these discussions with the city or with the airport, is that, as Paula had stated, is the attendance for O'Hare or enforcement at O'Hare, they're only able to give out parking tickets, which may be, I don't know, $250.
No, not even.
But that's the extent of what they can do as far as a ticket. It has to be Chicago police that's able to give out a higher ticket. And
Yes.
as you know, the Chicago police you can call them and all of a sudden they'll come, but they're not readily, in the terminals and giving out tickets unless they're called. So that seems to be a problem, but, as they have responded that, that they're short-staffed as well. So we'll see what happens with that.
It doesn't hurt to still call if you see something,
Mhm.
because CPD may be there. They know that the hustlers try to drive into the parking garages to hide from them and all the little tricks they play. But you have to also understand that there is not anywhere, no major city can control hustling 100%. In fact, my point to BACP a few weeks ago was that we have to be careful, because the hustling is not just causing traffic problems, it's also feedback from drivers telling us that these guys are preying on the elderly as they walk out of the terminals and trying to, somebody's coming out of a terminal, they're a little confused and they're jumping in front of them. We personally had a situation a few weeks ago where one of our clients, one of our executive clients came out, and two guys jumped in front of him and said, "Where are you going? Get in this car," and all that. And my driver immediately jumped out and said, "Here I am, sir." And he happened, thank goodness it was somebody that recognized each other, and they walked right over. But sometimes they were a bit hostile too. So just be real careful, and please don't approach any of these people. That I can't impress upon you enough. We don't know, they're trying to make a living too, and they can be hostile. So I know it's frustrating. We have the tools to report it, and I would appreciate if you would stick to those. Even the airport people don't want you approaching some of these people. It borders on organized crime. I don't know how else to say it. And at Midway, it's very organized. They literally know when the officers are available and when they're going off shift and they come back out. They ask them, "Well, how long are you working today?" They go up to them. They're brazen. So we got a lot of work to do on it, but just keep reporting things, communicate. You can share with us, but the most timely communications come directly from you guys. And that's all I have to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other comments, concerns?
I hope this was really helpful to everybody. I think she did a fantastic job as always.
Paula, can you talk about the holiday party that we're planning for the association, please?
Yep. So our next coffee meeting is December 19th. We're working on a speaker, so I'll keep that surprise for later. Our year-end celebration is going to be at the beginning of the year, January 9th at Carlucci's in Rosemont. We're working on the details right now. And so you should see something in the next 2 weeks or so. And that's it. We're working on a full on schedule for 2024 for these meetings and other meetings that we want to provide to you guys. So honestly, I've gotten some topics from Tim Wigman yesterday. It's great. Please share with us anything you want to learn about. We can find a speaker for just about anything. And while our board is really good at that, I would really prefer that we hear from you, because you may have something that you've been wanting to learn about that, we haven't touched on yet. And we will definitely explore those. So we actually started working last week with the board on a list of topics for next year. And I'm kind of excited about it. So, but just any comments you have, info@illba.org, you can send them over and I'll make sure that the board gets them. That's all I have.
Beautiful.
All right. I think we kept
And
everybody long enough.
I agree. And if there isn't anything else, then we will go ahead and call it a day. Oh, we've got David.
Now, out of curiosity, you hear me?
Yes, Jay.
Okay. Out of curiosity, I've noticed that, listen, this is the height of our season. And I noticed that it's not as high as I anticipated it should be. I checked with other people in the New York metropolitan area and Boston, and they're feeling the same thing. So I'm just curious how Chicago is doing.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I actually had that on my notes and I didn't get to that. I was going to ask the same question. It seems like up until last week,
Yeah.
I participated in several different calls saying that, business is good. However, it is not what we had forecasted. It didn't pan out. October didn't pan out as great as we thought it was going to. It seemed like the last 2 to 3 weeks had definitely tampered down a little bit. Looking at our numbers, it seemed to be a little bit more so on the black car side.
Yeah.
When I look at our affiliate work, the affiliate work slowed down, the black car side slowed down. Yesterday, all of a sudden, and I'm just speaking from my experience and what I was experiencing here in the office and talking to our team. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, it just kind of blew up and we're not able to keep up with the emails, not able to keep up with the requests. So I don't know if, you know, the war, did that have something to do with mid-October to the end of October? But definitely hearing the same thing, and I'm hearing it across the nation. It's not just by a region, but I'm hearing it from several operators across the nation.
It's interesting that you said about the phones blowing up yesterday, because I talked to a few
Mhm.
local operators and they said the same thing. They were getting inundated. So Dave, back to your comment. I mean, I think as a smaller operator in Chicago, we're just seeing patterns and it's not consistent. And a lot of affiliate work has slowed down for us. Primarily the feedback we're getting is that many of them are cutting back their travel schedules for a number of reasons, budget and otherwise. So we're seeing, dips, and we're doing more executives than we are staff, which is to me a very big red mark, because if you're only picking up the senior executives and you're not picking up the worker bees, then that means they're either pushing them to ride share potentially or somewhere else, or they're not traveling at all. So haven't been able to nail it down 100%, but we're definitely seeing ups and downs.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was the possibility that the Uber has been aggressively going after the corporates, okay, with advanced reservations and reserving specific drivers and stuff like that. And I'm just curious to see perhaps that's part to do with it. So.
I mean, I would think so. I mean, and that's years in the making. I would, if you go to Terminal 2 here at O'Hare, I mean, Terminal 2 is literally allocated and it's meant for rideshare. They dedicated the entire terminal to rideshare. And you can't tell me that you're not losing customers because of that convenience. I mean, you're inside the airport and there are signs, go here to get to your rideshare. I mean, they literally roll out the red carpet and make it as easy as possible to find your ride share. So yeah, I definitely think that that's part of it. I mean, the one good, David, when you bring up that concern, it's part of me is like, okay, we're not the only ones that felt a slight dip. So knowing that it's across the nation and that it's travel as a whole, I mean, there's a little bit of comfort in that. But I do think we need to pay close attention to it, because is that going to go into fourth quarter and your forecasts are not going to be as robust as we thought they were going to be? And then what does first quarter look like? So I think these next 3 or 4 weeks are going to be very telling into what 2024 is going to start off as.
I agree.
We will see.
I highly recommend you get a mega pop star to date one of your football players in town, because
like you have, I know. Well said, Tim. We can't all have Taylor at our, events every week, but
I swear the calls that have come just because of that going on is
nuts, isn't it?
I never could have forecast that at all. That it's a special treat we're getting.
Yeah, it's like a mini Super Bowl when she comes to town. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. One person with that much power. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. And look for the recording, hopefully tomorrow, and the attachments. And again, any topics, give us a call. And we love seeing you. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Have a great week.
Have a great week. Thank you.